Hey guys, this is Wolf in the Storm, aka Lisa, coming at you live with another review video for Time Lord Victorious. Okay, well, I promised y'all that once I got The Night, the Fool, and the Dead, that I would be doing a review. And it just so happens that we've had at least 3 or 4 different pieces of the Time Lord Victorious ethos drop all at once, so now I can review it all. So the main focus of today's video is going to be The Night, the Fool, and the Dead, part 3 of Monstrous Beauty, which, as we all know, can be found in the Doctor Who magazine, the latest issue, which dropped a couple days ago, and the latest Big Finish audio, The Enemy of My Enemy, featuring Paul McGann as the 8th Doctor and Nicholas Briggs as the Daleks, which just dropped last week as well. That is, other than that is not quite Paul McGann's last entry into Time Lord Victorious, because we still have Mutually Assured Destruction and Echoes of Extinction. Update on that coming momentarily. Before I get too far into it, a little bit of housekeeping as usual. Help me keep on keeping on. Hit me up on those links in the description on Twitter and Patreon. If you would like to contribute to the channel to keep me keeping on, you can get some great perks like seeing my videos before I put them up on YouTube, having your names your pretty little names scroll down in a pretty little scroll on the screen, and other little things as well. Don't forget, help me keep my YouTube channel alive. Right there. Boom. Link. Hit that subscribe button. Smash that bell. Don't forget. Much, much, much important. I will also leave, as always, further links in the description that will take you to Pocket Mags if you are unable to get a physical subscription, physical Doctor Who magazine because you do not live in the UK, as I do not, and you have to rely on digital. I will leave you that link to Pocket Mags. As I have said multiple times, Pocket Mags has a great deal going where you do not necessarily have to buy an entire 12-month subscription of Doctor Who magazine. If you don't want the whole thing, you can buy the magazines piece by piece. So from month to month, you can buy them individually if you don't want to have to get the whole thing. Like if you just wanted these 3 issues just for Monstrous Beauty, that's all you would have to buy. They have some great deals. Their price is reasonable. Excellent. So I will leave you with that. And I will also, of course, leave the links for further updates on the Time Lord Victorious timeline. We do have an update from the Doctor Who website. What they did was they took that winding timeline that was still sort of confusing, and they made it a drop down. And they've kind of put all of the stories in order of the way they believe they should be viewed for the whole event to make sense. I actually have it, so I'm going to put it up. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Hello. Hi. Now, I know that this is what they think is the right way to do it. However, I feel like I want to do a little addendum. For it to make sense, at least to me anyway, I really think what they should have done was started with The Night, the Fool, and the Dead, that book first as the setup, and then all the other mini stories afterwards, and then All Flesh is Grass at the very end. I think that would have made most sense, because The Night, the Fool, and the Dead literally takes up right after Waters of Mars. He is literally just walking into the TARDIS after the Waters of Mars is over. Still in that mindset, like he's kind of lost between, did I do the right thing or did I fuck up? And he knows that he shouldn't mess with a fixed point. And he could let that one slide because it's a fixed point and it's important you don't mess with it, of course, but it's not something that's going to destroy the fate of the universe. It would cause not necessarily fractures, but definitely wobbles. But Adelaide Brooke fixed it herself, so. But he knows that what he did was wrong, and yet at the same time, his mind is still caught in that place where he's very emotional. He doesn't show it. The doctor's not one to be an emotional person, but he's got it on the inside, all that pain and that anger. It is stewing in him, and it's like right here. Adelaide Brooke committing suicide to stop the paradox from happening and stop a fixed point from being messed with, kind of stopped it right here. Where he was at was about to come, was about to go explosive. But her committing suicide stopped it about right here. But it's still like bubbling, and he's on that precipice where, do I stop or do I keep going? Do I stop? It's like that whole scene from Satan Pit where he's like, go on, go on, go on, go on. Do you jump or do you not? My mind is telling me, go on, go on, go on, jump, do it, go on, And that's kind of where he's at. Does he jump off that cliff and go, fully cracked out Time Lord victorious, or does he pull back and be like, take a breath? This is not a good idea. So yeah. And then the storyline in the book is kind of what leads him on that disastrous journey. But the result of what he does in this first part of the book, in this book, is directly what leads into all the little short stories. What the Eighth Doctor, all the changes to the different worlds that the Eighth Doctor has seen. The Ninth Doctor, for some reason, being able to go back to the Dark Times, even though it is well known to the Time Lords that the Dark Times are time locked. Rassilon time locked the Dark Times so that no one could ever go back there and fuck with it. And yet he and Rose managed to find themselves back there in the middle of a war between I'm going to call them proto-Time Lords because they have not become Time Lords yet, and the great vampires. He should not have been able to get back there, and yet. So they're seeing all these widespread changes to civilizations, planets, galaxies that don't make any sense. And it's all a result of what the 10th Doctor has done in The Night, the Fool, and the Dead. The only story that is kind of like a lead up would be the short trips, the two master short trips. And that's really just to give more detail about the devolver gun and also, basically the devolver gun because it features in both of the stories, and also to give more background and more depth to the Katura as an evil entity character, so that you can understand why the Doctor feels the way he does towards these creatures and why he wants to stop them. Everything else really could have come after the book. Now, I don't know about the original escape room because I don't live in the UK, so I was not able to go to that first event. I know that there's some stuff having to do with the Ninth Doctor and him getting there involving the escape room. That was the only question I had as far as the book, was how did the Ninth Doctor know to get to the Dark Times? Because, we'll just go in order with the reviews. So we're going to start it. First thing we're going to review. Bam! Oh yeah, peoples. Pretty, is it not? Now, I know that some people have already been able to get their hands on All Flesh is Grass. I don't know how, because it's not supposed to come out until December. And yet. But, sorry. But here we are. Night the Fool and the Dead. Now, this book doesn't just contain the overall story. It also contains 3 interlude stories, or short stories, all taking place with different doctors, different companions, and it's basically the doctor telling different companions, 3 different doctors telling 3 different companions, 3 different versions of the same kind of, I don't want to call it a legend, like a fairy tale. Directly having to do with death and a character that is trying to fight death to save someone's life and the consequences he suffers as a result. So the first interlude has to do, it takes place very early on. It's the Doctor's first life, first incarnation of the Doctor, and he's companion, of course, with Ian, Barbara, and Susan. The second interlude, which I just love, is the Ninth Doctor, Christopher Eccleston with Rose. And the third interlude is the 8th Doctor, Paul McGann, with Brian Ood. So it's relatively recent. So here we go. We have David Tennant's 10th Doctor. We have Brian Ood right there. Brian Ood. Oh wait, this is, sorry, the camera's reversed. So we got Brian Ood and we got the Katura. So basically, the 10th Doctor is having a rough patch. And he's having some hard times. So he decides he wants to take a vacation. And his idea of taking a vacation is going somewhere where no one will ever find him, where the universe is young and pretty and new, and there's no, no civilizations at war. Everything's nice and quiet. So he decides to go to the dark times. Now that right there should tell you something's wrong, because even he knows that you can't go to the dark times. As I said before, it's time locked by Rassilon. And yet, he decides to go to a planet called Andalia, where he has known it to be a pleasure planet, peaceful, tropical, beautiful, where he can just relax and get his head back on straight. And I think if he'd been able to do that, it probably wouldn't have descended into the chaos that it descended into. But when he gets there, he is immediately greeted by a swath of people. Well, first he's at a temple. And then when he goes into the town, there's a swath of people who are gathered for some sort of show. And the show has to do with a woman who is advertising what is called a life shroud. And a life shroud is supposedly something you wear. It's like a suit. And it's supposed to protect you from the deadly touch of the Katura. Because at this point in time, the Katura are going from planet to planet and world to world, passing their judgment on different civilizations and basically causing people to die and en masse, like destroying whole civilizations and whole galaxies at their whim because of their great design. Like, they believe they have the right to pass judgment on whose lifespan is what. Because before the Katura showed up, everybody, there was no lifespan. Like, you just lived and that was it. And when you died, you died. If you even did die. But the Katura are passing this judgment on everybody based on what they believe that these creatures can contribute to the universe as a whole. If they don't believe that you contribute very much, then you will not live a long lifespan and you will die quickly. And if they do believe that you will contribute something important, then you will live long. Funnily enough, I think they believe that the Time Lords would contribute quite a bit, and that's why they let them live long, long lives. Anyway, so if you read some of the short story editions, like the little short story editions in the newsletter, one of the first short stories that they published was from the point of view of a young girl called Estine on another planet whose entire planet was wiped out. when the Katura showed up, and she literally watched her mother and father die in front of her face. She was the only one who managed to survive. Somehow, when they passed their judgment on her, it didn't work. I don't know how it is that she was able to resist, but she somehow has some sort of power that makes it that she cannot die. So she's found by a scientist named Phalomax. And Phalomax is the one that has invented this life shroud because she's trying to protect her own planet because she knows that it won't be long before the Katura comes to her planet and wipes them out. So she's trying to create this life shroud. Problem is she has no problem creating the shroud itself, but the crystals is required to power it is very hard to come by. Why? Because they're only found on Mordila, which is the planet that the Katura have taken up residence on. And if you try to go there to get those crystals, unless you're very good at sneaking in, which Phalomax has become over a long period of time, but if you're not very good at sneaking, they will find you and you will die, basically. Many different representatives of different races have gone there to pledge their case in hopes that the Katura will spare them or give them long lives, and in almost every case, the people die. It's not pretty. So the doctor's standing there watching this advertisement here, and Esne is wearing this life shroud, and they put on this test to show whether or not it will work. And it definitely works, but that doesn't mean it's not painful for her. Her skin is bubbled and burned, and she is definitely in pain and definitely hurting, and yet wearing the life shroud prevents her from dying, supposedly. So as soon as they see it, everybody there is like scrambling to pay for a life shroud because they know that the Katura is coming soon. And just as they're about to hand over their credit sticks to buy them, and the life shrouds are being passed out within minutes of the life shrouds being passed out. I mean, these people didn't even have a chance to put them on. And don't forget, it was just the life shrouds. The crystals were not included in the package. So even if they put the life shrouds on, there's no guarantee that they would work without the life shrouds without the crystals to power them up. So before they even had the chance to put them on, the Katura show up and slaughtered the whole place. Basically passed their judgment on the entire planet. And the doctor and Esne are barely able to get out with their lives intact. They almost don't. The doctor just barely manages to get out, and Esne is grabbed by the Katura and taken back to their planet. So now he can't believe what he's seen. Like, that bubbling down here just went up to here. So he cannot believe that this race would dare to pass judgment on whole swaths, whole civilizations, and whole planets for no other reason than because they can. He's pissed off. He is found by Phalomax and by another alien, and also by Brian the Ood. Brian the Ood was in the audience watching this because he was paid by a client to determine whether or not the life shroud actually worked. So he and Brian are taken by Brian's employer, who turns out to be some sort of representative of a big planetary system, who are wanting the life shrouds for themselves because they have very good authority that their planet is going to be next in short order. And so they're desperate to save their people. They need the life shroud as soon as possible. It doesn't take the doctor long to figure out that the life shroud is only part of the puzzle, and that without the crystals, it's useless. So it's basically like a Wild West snake oil show. Phalomax is selling them these life shrouds, taking their money, but not giving them enough crystals for it to really work. And so these people are dying regardless. It's like one big, huge con. So already he's pissed off for that. Then coupled with being pissed off at the Katura for killing just indiscriminately. So he decides to make a deal with them and says, okay, look, I don't want this to keep going on. You don't want this to keep going on. So with my Time Lord brains and the fact that they don't have dominion over me because I'm from the future, they ain't gonna fucking touch me. Whatever. I'm gonna help build you a real live working life shroud that will work. And I'm gonna build you enough to make sure that all of your people will have them so that they'll live. Now, initially, the thing is, though, when he decides to build them, he's building them as a defensive measure. He wants to give them the life shroud to these people so that they can defend their own lives, so that they won't die when the Keturah invade the planet. He's not wanting them to go to war against the Keturah or anything. He's trying to save lives, which is what you would expect him to do. But there's a confluence of events that goes on throughout the story that cause that bubble to just continuously rise to the point where it just, he goes explosive. Because there's a point at which Esene gets disappeared again by the Keturah, and they have to go after her and find her. They do find her. They get her back. He finds out that Phalomax has been secretly sneaking into Mordila to get the crystals, but can't seem to figure out a way to make it work on a grand scale. And this is when the doctor offers his services to help her to make a whole bunch of life shrouds that will work, that won't necessarily require the use of the crystals, because he doesn't want them to get killed trying to get them. While they're on Mordila, they see the different representatives of the different planets that have come down there to plead their case and beg not to be killed. And he sees them all, one by one, die. But their bodies are like reanimated, almost like zombies, kind of. And they just keep chanting a series of numbers and words over and over. And what they figure out eventually is that the string of words and numbers are coordinates and are temporal spatial coordinates and times for different planets. It even gets to the point where the doctor himself starts to mumble a series of, words and numbers. And it's temporal spatial coordinates to Andalia 2 weeks from where they're at. Or 5 days, is it? Something like. So they know that the Keturah are planning on going back to Andalia again, but he can't figure out why. He's like, why would they go back again? They already passed judgment on that planet. What else do they possibly need to do? So the doctor is trying everything he can to make this stop, to get these life shrouds to work, to save these people. But he doesn't necessarily trust the big dude alien that has them on his ship, because they're kind of being held there against their will and not really being allowed to leave. I mean, they're not being harmed or anything like that, but they're not being allowed to leave either. Even Brian the Ood, who's working for this alien, doesn't like him, but is stuck with it because it's money, right? So he decides to team up with the doctor, and he's trying to convince the doctor that he's going to have to go to war against these creatures if he really wants it to end. He even goes so far as calling him Admiral Doctor. And that right there, when I read that, I was like, oh no. Oh no, this is going to get bad. Because I know for a fact, after the war, he swore that he would never, ever put himself in that position ever again. To lead anybody or anything into battle for any reason whatsoever. Mentally, emotionally, he could not put himself back into that place after everything he'd been through. It was just too much. And yet, after everything he'd lost at the end of season 4, with having to let Rose go again, and then losing Donna, and then having this prophecy constantly coming at him saying that he's going to die when he hears the 4 knocks, I think he just kind of lost it. He started, well, he had already been in a downward spiral for a while, but at the end of after the events of season 4, at the end, that was more than a downward spiral. It was a self-destructive nosedive. He's terrified of his own death. We already know this. I mean, if you've seen End of Time Part 1 and 2 and all that, you know how he speaks of it. And he's been trying to outrun it for a long time now. So his reasoning for going against the Keturah, it's not just because he's trying to stop them from indiscriminately killing, which he is trying to do. He's also trying to save his own skin because he doesn't want to die. I mean, even though we know that he's just going to regenerate, he doesn't want to leave that face. He's scared, and it's coloring his judgment. He doesn't initially want to be called Admiral at all. He shakes off. He's like, no, just the Doctor. But by the end, after a series of events where the Keturah kill Thalamax, and then Estine dies at their hands as well, he's pretty much just done. To the point where he's not just going to build the life shrouds to save lives, he's using it as armor. And he also finds, through a series of experiments, they realize that the Keturah, they don't just have this magical ability to set a person's lifespan. What they're doing is they have a genetic ability locked within their species that allows them to send out some sort of genetic virus that manipulates a body and will either speed up aging or slow it down. It's some sort of retrovirus that causes species to die. That's what they're doing. So he reverse engineers it and says, you're not going to need the damn life shrouds anymore. I mean, if you want them, I can build them for you so you can have protection. But you're not really going to need them anymore because I've got this reverse engineered retrovirus based on their own genetics, and I'm going to turn it back around on them. So once he gets cornered by a few of them, he actually has two different vials. One vial is death, the other is life. It's the same virus, but less potent. It will hurt them, but it won't kill them. And that's the typical Doctor thing, give them a choice. But when Estine dies and he gets locked into a fight with them and that vial shatters, he's like, I was going to give you a choice, but now, yeah, I'm done. And he opens up the death vial on them, and it works. The ones that are surrounding him trying to kill him die. So by the end of this book, the 8th and 9th Doctors appear right as the 10th Doctor, and the poster where he's wearing the Time Lord regalia, the robes, and the headdress, that is real. He actually does that at the end of this book. Because in his mind, he has now become the admiral, the commander of this mercenary army. And he feels that if he's going to do that and command troops into war as he once did, he should dress for the occasion. Apparently, that's what Time Lords would typically wear when they went to war. I didn't think I would ever see him wearing something like that ever again, all things considered, after the Time War and all. But right now, he's not in the right frame of mind. So he's out of it. He's just about to launch that reverse engineered virus onto Mordila, where they're all of the Keturah are. Just as he's about to do it, the 8th and the 9th Doctors show up. The 8th Doctor shows up with the Daleks, and this is in the 8th Doctor's timeline. This is right at the end of The Enemy of My Enemy, which I will discuss here momentarily. He's with the Daleks. He's partnered with them because he now knows what has happened and why it has happened. And then the 9th Doctor shows up in the coffin ship that belonged to the great vampires. Now, his reasoning for showing up, I believe, has something to do with the escape room. So even if you read the Monstrous Beauty comic, you'll know that at the end of the Monstrous Beauty comic, he saves Rose and he leaves. So there's no reason for him to go back for the coffin ship. But somewhere between that comic and this book, I'm assuming that first escape room explains how the Ninth Doctor figures it out. And because he's managed to make an alliance with the lead vampire on the coffin ship, I guess he goes to them for help. But anyway, they both show up to stop him because they know that he has messed the F up. The 10th Doctor has definitely messed the fuck up. But he's not hearing it, and he's like, boop, fire. So this is what really causes the time fracture. The thing with Abigail Brooke, like I said, was a wobble. This is a fracture of universal proportions, because even though he doesn't agree with what the Katur are doing, their design is something that has to happen for certain races to live and die as they were meant to. Because he is stopping them from doing what they're doing, certain races will continue to live when they weren't supposed to, which makes it that other races that were supposed to live will not be able to. And it's completely changing the course of billions of years of universal history, which is why the 8th Doctor keeps seeing changes in time streams that aren't supposed to be happening. Like when he was in that last audio, he kills me not. He went back to a planet that he's been to many times before. Lush, tropical, beautiful, big, beautiful statue. On now it's a barren wasteland. Its whole time stream had completely been rewritten. Probably because the Katura had been there at one point and passed their design over the planet, which allowed it to become that beautiful tropical planet that the 8th Doctor remembers. But because the 10th Doctor has changed that, now it's stuck being a barren wasteland. It looks like it's something out of Firefly. So, and this leads directly into, and this also explains why the 9th Doctor was able to break Rassilon's time lock and go into the dark times when he really wasn't supposed to. He's rewritten history. Also explains the paradoxes going all the way back to the Hand with the 10th Doctor and that adventure with the Daleks there. All of these things that he has done in this book has rippled backwards and forwards throughout time in a massive, massive way. So the 8th and 9th Doctors have to come to him and be like, yo, dude, chill. You need to stop. Because you're fucking with... You know they have laws of time against messing with fixed points. This is like a fixed fucking freeway. Okay? Not just a point. This is a whole like continent of fixed that he has screwed up. I mean, he is so lost right now that he doesn't realize what he's doing. So I have to wonder when the 8th and 9th Doctors come. I know that the 8th Doctor is with the Daleks. What I want to know is who is the 9th Doctor with? I know that he's with the vampires on the coffin ship. But did he leave Rose behind, or did he bring Rose with him? Because we all know, having had experience with the Doctor, that the Doctor does not get along with other versions of himself. Like, ever. So, if the 8th and 9th Doctors really believe that they're going to be able to talk him down, I got another thing. I can sell you a bridge, right? But I do believe that Rose would be able to talk him down, because she's Rose, and if he would listen to anybody, it would be her. I think he needs that. She might not recognize she probably won't realize who he is, because her doctor, the 9th Doctor, hasn't regenerated yet. And yes, he would probably have to take the memories from himself and from her. But I think he needs to see her. He needs to be able... If anybody could talk him down, it's her. He needs her. I genuinely think she could do it. They wouldn't have chosen to put them in there for no reason. I just can't imagine that the Ninth and the Eighth Doctor will be able to make any real headway. He is so lost inside his own mind, and so in so much pain, and so broken right now that I don't think the other two could break through the walls that he's got up. But she could. She always could. So if she is with him on the coffin ship, why wouldn't she be? I'm please God, when All Flesh is Grass comes out, please let her talk to him. Let him see her. Because I think it would help in more ways than one. Not just to stop him from doing this, but to help him to move on. To help him to come to terms with everything. To say goodbye properly. Because he didn't even have the chance to really do that. But anyhow, yeah. If you have a chance, do pick this up. I will also put an Amazon link in the description. Because that's the best way to get it. Don't try to go through the UK outlets, because shipping being what it is right now because of world stuff. Go through Amazon. It's a much better chance that you'll get it on time and you won't have to wait 5 gazillion years like I did. Because I originally ordered this from Forbidden Planet and I never got it. It was on back order, and so I just had to wind up canceling all the orders I had with them for just about everything and going through Amazon instead. Or actually, no, not even. Waterstones from the UK. That's why it took so long, because I had to order it from the UK. Because it wasn't available through Amazon yet, but now it is. Anyhow, next up, we have Paul McGann's audio, The Enemy of My Enemy. Y'all know how much I love Paul McGann. Any chance I have for the Eighth Doctor, right? Yeah. So this is the Eighth Doctor team up with the Daleks, and this directly leads into him finally figuring out what the hell is going on and going to the Dark Times to confront his nibs here for fucking up. So if you remember, at the end of He Kills Me Not, he's confronted by the Daleks. The Daleks have grabbed the TARDIS, and they've kidnapped him, and he wants to know why, and they're claiming that they need his help. Now, these Daleks are actually the Daleks from that 10th Doctor comic in the beginning. Or you remember when the Doctor was helping the Daleks to deal with the Hand? Yeah, those Daleks. Once the 10th Doctor finished and they were going to kill him, the 13th Doctor got there and got him out, and he managed to escape. But they still needed a doctor to help them, because this was about more than just the Hand. Even the Daleks could see that there was ripples in time that made no sense. So there was something much bigger that they were afraid of. And it turned out, so they decided they couldn't get help from the 10th Doctor, that they were going to get help from the 8th Doctor. I don't know why they specifically decided to choose him, but they did. So they grab him just as he's leaving that planet. He's in the vortex. They managed to grab him, and they convince him to enter into a quasi sort of, not really alliance, but a mutual agreement of sorts, because they fear something even bigger on the horizon that they can't handle on their own. And if the Daleks are afraid of something, you know that shit's real. So he's like, look, I don't trust you. You don't trust me. I fucking hate you. You fucking hate me. But this is bigger than us both. So we're going to be like, for now. But, when this is all done, at arms, right? So the Daleks take him to a planet called Rex. Now, as far as he knows, Rax is not even supposed to be inhabited. Rax is a completely inhabited world. Uninhabited world. Totally. As far as the Time Lords know. So he's kind of surprised that it's obviously not, and that there's a civilization there and an alien species. He's like, what the fuck, Chuck? Okay, this is check off number 2 planet that doesn't make sense. So they decide, he kind of sort of enters into I will say, an uneasy alliance of sorts with the Dalek strategist, if you remember from the comic. He says, look, something about this isn't right. And I know for a fact that the Dalek archivist, the Dalek emperor, the Dalek warmonger, whatever you want to call him, they call him the Dalek Time Brigade or Time Warriors or something. So he doesn't trust them because he thinks they're going to shoot first and ask questions later. At least the strategist he can talk to. The strategist knows, he's a little more insidious the way he plans things out. He doesn't just walk in with guns blazing. So he's like, look, when we go in there and we talk to them, let's try to figure out what the hell's going on before we open up the guns, right? And the strategist is like, okay, we'll protect you, but only so far as we need you, right? Just like they did with the 10th Doctor. So they go into the base there, and they meet the aliens, who at first appear to be nice, but they're really not. And it's actually quite interesting because the Raxians are extremely warmongering race. Very much like the Daleks. Only the Daleks exterminate because they believe every other species in the universe is beneath them and that they don't deserve to exist. The Raxians actually think that they're doing the universe a favor. They don't believe that every species doesn't deserve to exist, but they believe there are certain species that don't deserve to exist, and they have no compunction at taking them down. The problem is they have the perfect weapon to do so. At first, the Doctor thinks the dome on top of their base is this pretty telescope to look at their pretty sky, but it's actually not. It's a de-evolver, which, if you remember from the short trips, Master Thief, that is the weapon that the Master was trying to break into that highly secure facility to liberate. Well, I know he was actually going for the maps, but while he was there, he got his hands on the de-evolver gun. Now, the interesting thing about the de-evolver gun, no one knew who made it or how it worked, just that it would de-evolve a species down to its basest level. What they didn't realize was that the components of the de-evolver gun were actually of Katura design. You find this out in this particular story, and that it contains some sort of components that allow you to literally take the genetics of a species. You can take a genetic sample from one member of a species. Like you could take a genetic sample from one Dalek, put it into the computers that program the de-evolver gun, turn the de-evolver gun on, and it would completely destroy every Dalek ever. All Daleks wiped out in one fell swoop. Just because it has that genetic code. So it's basically taking what his nibs over here, that antiviral thing, what he invented in this book, and applied it to this weapon. So not only did he take out the Katura and make a big, huge mistake, but he also contributed to the invention of a weapon that is an even bigger mistake. So they test it in the presence of the Daleks and the Doctor can't believe what he's seeing. It's like, you just committed genocide on a massive scale. What the hell are you doing? And they're like, well, this is what we do. We find species that we believe don't deserve to live, and we take them out, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, what? So the Raxians have a feeling that the Daleks and the Doctor are going to try and stop them. So they turn it around on them and say, somehow they manage to get a bit of Doctor's DNA, and they also get a bit of the Daleks and say, look, if you try anything, all I have to do is put it into the gun, and the entire Time Lord race goes poof. All right, put the Dalek DNA into the gun, and the entire Dalek race goes poof. You know? So it's incumbent upon the Doctor and the Daleks to try and figure out some way to stop them. Because there's already dissension within the Daleks themselves. The warmonger Dalek just wants to open up the rays and kill everybody, as Daleks would normally do. But the Doctor knows that if he allows that to happen, and all the Raxians are killed, that means it leaves the weapon free to fall into Dalek hands. And if the Daleks got their hands on that, there wouldn't be nothing left. Not even the Time Lords. You think the war was bad? I mean, they wouldn't even have to try. All they would have to do is just program the freaking gun, and boop, 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 species would pop out of existence as if they never were. So he cannot allow them to get their hands on it. So in this conversation that he has with the strategist, he thinks that they've come to an agreement that they're going to make this stop. But even the Doctor knows you can never trust a Dalek, right? So towards the end, they're basically stuck in a standoff. This is the Daleks on one side, you got the Raxians on the other, and the Doctor in the middle trying to negotiate between them both. He manages to talk both sides down, and they come to an agreement that the Daleks will leave and never come back, and that the Raxians, he convinces the Raxians that they know that this is wrong. How can you be emotionless in killing an entire species? Think about it. He manages to get a piece of Raxian DNA and says, look, what do you think will happen if I use this on the gun? Your entire race gone like that. Think about it. Innocent men, women, children, poof, out of existence as if they never were. Doesn't that make you feel something, anything, about how wrong this really is? And that's when she finally starts to realize that this is not a good idea, that she's fucked up. So she comes to an agreement that as long as the Daleks leave in peace and don't ever come back, that they will dismantle the gun and destroy it so that it will never happen again. And he's trusting them to do this, and I wish they hadn't. I mean, I do believe that the Raxians intended to do this. I know that they did. It's not the problem does not lie with the Raxians. The problem is with the Daleks. He should have made sure that they dismantled the gun in his presence before leaving, but he didn't. He left with he thought all of the Daleks had left, but they didn't. Some of them had stayed behind, and they slaughtered all of the Raxians that were left, of which there were not many, and took the gun for themselves. So, because by the end of the story, he realized why this was happening, and he wanted to get there to fix it as soon as possible. So he was trusting the Daleks that were staying behind to go home and not cause any further trouble. But of course, Daleks being Daleks, you can't ever trust a Dalek. So, yeah, now they have their hands on the de-evolver gun, and God only knows what they're going to do with it. But the Eighth Doctor leaves Rax, and he takes some of the Daleks with him, and they go to the Dark Times to confront his nibs. This colossal fuck up. If you have the opportunity to get your hands on that big finished production, I say please do. It is wonderful. Paul McGann is phenomenal as usual as the Eighth Doctor, and I swear to Jesus, Nick Briggs deserves all the awards for playing all those different. It's one person doing the voice of like 10 different. He somehow manages to figure out a way to do a different voice for every Dalek. There's no two Daleks that sound the same. So all the awards to Nick Briggs, for sure. I will leave a link in the description for that, for bigfinish.com, if you want to get your hands on that. They have it available in vinyl, digital download, and on CD. If you want to save your money, I would suggest you do it as a digital download. Speaking of Big Finish, the last two audios are Mutually Assured Destruction and Echoes of Extinction. Mutually Assured Destruction is still coming out in December, but Echoes of Extinction has been pushed back because of production issues, because of, world stuff. So it's not that they haven't finished it. It's done. The thing is that before they can allow the digital downloads to be released or the CDs to be mailed out, they have to do the ASDA sales first, meaning the vinyls. Those have to go out first before any of them do. And because a lot of the ASDA stores, don't ask me what an ASDA is. It's a store in the UK. Because a lot of those stores have been shut down due to lockdowns. Those sales will not be able to start until sometime later at the end of this year. So actual release, Echoes of Extinction on CD and on digital download will not be until February, right around the same time that the second that Time Fracture escape room. Kind of sucks, but way of the world at this point. So, number 3 review is Monstrous Beauty Part 2. This is the end of the Monstrous Beauty comic. Again, it's relatively short, but it is definitely good. Where we took up last time, the Doctor was being attacked by a vampire Rose Tyler, and he has to figure out a way to save her. So he decides to appeal to the only person that is left there that he can appeal to, and that is the head slave driver guy, the one that's in the red armor. He had been having a conversation with him beforehand, and it seemed like he was getting through to him about, like, do you really want these vampires to keep controlling you? Do you really want to keep doing this to these people? Or do you want to be your own person and make your own choices? Because this isn't right. This isn't right. Don't you want to be your own man and not be a slave to them? This is fucked up. So he does finally manage to get through to him, and with this man's help, they're able to overthrow. I mean, the sister's already dead, but they're able to overthrow the dominant vampires on the ship. And the vampire monk bites it, fortunately, and the Doctor is able to come up with a, I guess you want to call it like a blood substitute or some sort of anti-blood type of thing that he's able to give to the vampire slaves there in order to set them free. I don't know if that means that they don't have to continuously exist on pure blood and they can just exist on this and not have to be tethered, or if it means that they'll be made human again, or whatever race they were before, and are set free from the vampire curse. But he gives the same thing to Rose at the end of the story, and he's able to save her. So she's made human again. And of course she's mortified that, what she did, and she apologizes profusely, but he says, it's okay, it's not your fault, And also the young girl that was there with Rose at the beginning, the servant girl who just wanted to be free, because the servant girl helped them to get Rose out, they take her with them. They steal Rassilon's ship again, and they take her with them. And after the Doctor's able to nurse Rose back to health, he gives Rassilon's ship to the girl, and he programs and says, you can go wherever, you can stay here on this planet, or you can go wherever you want, but now you have this blood substitute so that you'll be free. You'll be happy. You won't have to be a slave anymore, and you won't have to live in fear. And I'm, ostensibly from there, I'm assuming that the Doctor and Rose go off to have more adventures. But I know that between that and this book, he figures out what's going on. And I can only assume that has to do with the first live event I was not able to be a part of, that I was not able to see because, again, I don't live in the UK. So I don't know entirely the explanation. I'm guessing that they did leave, and then the Ninth Doctor starts to wonder how it was he was able to get there in the first place, and in the course of investigating, he figures out, oh God, I fucked up, or I will fuck up, and he goes back. He knows that the Doctor is in the dark times, so he goes back to the dark times to stop him. And along the way, he's like, hey, I made an ally on this coffin ship. I think I could use their help. Hey, why don't you come on? Help me out here. And that's when they all converge. So now we are awaiting. We have 4 more things coming out. I'm not including the figurines because it really doesn't contribute to the overall story. That's just merch. We've got All Flesh is Grass, which is the second part of the book. We've got Minds of Magnox also coming out in December. And, of course, Mutually Assured Destruction and Echoes of Extinction. And which all leads up to Time Fracture, the big escape room event. Unfortunately, I will not be able to be involved because, again, I don't live in the UK. But hopefully I will hear some sort of review about it from somebody. So, again, Monstrous Beauty, I hope they make it into one big comic so that I can have it, because it's a really great story, and I would very much love to have it. And any kind of Doctor Who story with the Ninth Doctor is great to have. It was never enough. There was just never enough. So that's always great to have anything with him and Rose. So now we are at the impasse. 3 Doctors, 2 different companions. I'm not including the Daleks as level of companions because fuck no, not ever. And now we got to figure out what are they going to do? How are they going to stop him? How are they going to make him stop? Because he's at a point right now where he's in no way wants to stop. The only other release that I've seen so far as Time Lord Victorious is the animated miniseries called Daleks with an exclamation point. I watched part 1. Oh boy. I was really liking the Time Lord Victorious extravaganza, and then I saw this, and I don't quite understand why they are connecting this with Time Lord Victorious, because it doesn't really connect. Of course, they've only come out with the first part, so there's more parts. So I'm sure we will figure it out as the parts go on. But oh my god, Nicholas Briggs is awesome as always as the voice of the Daleks, because it's Nick Briggs, so of course he's awesome. But he's really the only highlight. The animation. Oh boy. Okay, back in 2007 and 2008, David Tennant lent his voice as the 10th Doctor to 2 animated specials. This is 2007 and 2008, okay? Just for perspective. A gazillion times better than this mess. I felt like it was like 20 years ago, and they were, and somebody decided they thought it would be a good idea to use Flash. The animation was not poor, but not good either. It was very blocky and very early 2000s, I want to say. And you would think, this is 2020. I know we can do better than this. Come on now. if they really wanted to create something that was worthwhile, they should have gone with an animation company outside of the UK that has more experience doing this kind of thing. There are not exactly that many animation houses in the UK for this reason. I don't know what the other episodes are going to be like. Of course, I will review them as they appear, but they're kind of... the animation is sucking the goodness out of the overall story before the overall story even has the ability to be there. Before the overall story is even there yet. Which is sad, because it could be a totally awesome story, but no one's going to see that because the animation is so awful. But yeah, more updates as they come. Well, that's pretty much it for this month's Time Lord Victorious reviews. Once again, once the rest of the stuff comes, I've already got All Flesh is Grass on order, so as soon as it... through Amazon, thank you, so they will get here quickly with a swiftness. So when those come out in December, I will be sure to get those reviews to you. I will probably be off for a little while because of Thanksgiving holiday coming up, and it's going to be kind of busy. But I will do my best to keep making videos. There's just not much in the realm of Doctor Who stuff. I keep seeing online people are pissed off because everything is Time Lord Victorious, and the new season of the Doctor Who is not getting a lot of traction or a lot of advertisement. I know right now in the UK they're supposed to be doing the Children in Need special, and Children in Need and Doctor Who have always gone hand in hand. Some of the best Doctor Who specials have come out of Children in Need, Born Again, Time Crash, But lately, last couple of years, and I'm not just talking about the 13th Doctor, but even the ones back with Capaldi, even going into Matt Smith, they didn't really have good specials after Russell's era, honestly. I mean, they had a couple of good ones with Matt Smith, but anyhow, they're supposed to be doing Children in Need, and I know that a part of that, I think they might be showing a clip of Revolution of the Daleks. I think. But there has been very, very little advertisement for the new season, and even less for the Christmas special or New Year's special. They haven't even said which day they're going to show it on. Doesn't surprise me, though, because that's Christmas special. New Year's is not for at least a month. Right now, they are fully entrenched in this. I know that a lot of the current era fans are pissed off because they want more Jodie. They want it to be, 13th Doctor. Why couldn't she be in Time Lord Victorious? Blah, 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 blah. Look, all I can say is that right now, as much as some people like this era, and if you do, all power, more power to you. But the majority of the fandom doesn't. And I think that the BBC has noticed. I know that they're fully entrenched in their agenda or whatever, however they want to sell the show. But I think even they've begun to realize that it has truly become a dumpster fire of epic proportions. The ratings are horrible, like off a cliff horrible. We're talking about a company that relies on money to survive. And because they were already having problems with people getting rid of their subscriptions in the UK, they need to make money somehow. And Time Lord Victorious, they know what sells. I understand people they think that the market has become way too saturated with the 10th Doctor. David's gotten a lot of fucking work. I'll say that for sure. And I never tire of seeing him, so I trust me, I have no problem with it. But I can understand that other fans might be like, oh my god, David Tennant again, 10th Doctor again. Why are you, focusing on him? He's not even the Doctor anymore. It's supposed to be the 13th Doctor. It doesn't matter if he's not on the screen. He is the Doctor, and he will always be the Doctor for as long as he lives. Even after he's dead, he will still be the Doctor. So if they decide to keep doing audios or books with his face on it, they're going to do it. They're not stupid. They know what sells. And it's not her. Well, first of all, Big Finish and BBC Books cannot do any books with her on it yet because she's under contract as the current Doctor. They can't do any anything with her face on it until after she finishes. Once she's done, then they can do it. At least that's the way for Big Finish. Anyway, I don't know about the books, but Big Finish definitely cannot do any audios whatsoever until she leaves the role. That's their contract with BBC Studios. Period. So there's really not much that they can do about it. And I think they kind of know that if they put her on there, not a lot of people are going to buy her stuff. They're just not. Her stuff, a lot of her stuff just doesn't sell. And it's not because of Jodie herself. It's just because her portrayal of the Doctor, the companions being cardboard cutouts, the writing being horrible. I mean, what else can I say? If you like the era, that's great. But you can't deny that this iteration of the show has serious issues that need to be fixed. And I feel bad for David, because even though his Doctor is beloved, and I have no problem seeing as much of him as they want to throw out, yeah, sure, take the money. But it's not incumbent on David. It is not his responsibility to fix their shit. It's really not. It's not on him to save them from their own mistakes. It is their responsibility to fix their own house, to right their own ship, instead of putting it on his shoulders because they know that he sells. It's not fair to him. Because now he's getting flack for saturating, and he didn't ask for any of this. He's just an actor working, playing in a role that he absolutely adores and that he would never ever say no to, because he loves playing it, and he embodies that. So you can't fault him for it. If you want to fault anybody for the show not having enough advertisement, it's the BBC. But there's not much that they can do when you've had 2 years where the show has steadily declined in not just ratings, but quality. So all I can say is, I know that there have been reports that even though the UK just went into lockdown, I know that they have started filming season 13. Series 13. I don't know. It's obvious that there's not going to be a season 13 fully. Chibnall has already said that he had to knock it down to 8 episodes instead of 10, because it's going to take them a longer time to film because of all the restrictions, the filming restrictions to keep everybody safe. So he's already had to knock 2 episodes off so that they'll be done filming within a decent period of time for a release in 2021, which I think we were all expecting. Am I going to watch it? I don't know. Even with Bradley Walsh and Toast Cole leaving, that leaves Yaz, and Yaz is there. So, I don't know what to tell you. If there's not improvement, what's the point? That's why I got my books and my audios, and fan fiction is a wonderful thing. All right, so that is my review for our November Time Lord Victorious review dump. One other small thing. Even though UK is on lockdown right now, David Tennant, as of right now, is still waffling between South Africa and Romania, filming around the world in 80 days. So that is still going on schedule. It will probably take a little longer to complete. It's a 8-episode mini series. It will probably take a little longer to complete than they would like, because of filming restrictions, but it is going to be finished. And we have confirmation. Staged season 2, yo. Stage season 2. Yes. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen on Twitter, but they have released little snippets here and there of him and Michael Sheen and him and Georgia, and it is hysterically funny. So I am thrilled, cannot wait. So we should see in 2021 Stage season 2. Yay! All right, well, that is it for me. I will see you guys on the flip side. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Night, guys.
Good night.